What's going on, guys? In this video, I wanted to share my thoughts and opinions, renewed thoughts and opinions that I've had since Yae Miko has been introduced to the game. I'm sure many of you guys have seen the wide reception, I would say, in the community regarding Yae Miko, and a lot of people are probably a bit disappointed that she didn't live up to expectations. There were quite high expectations on her. Many people thought that she would be the next big Electro DPS. Now, in my first impressions video, I gave her a score of a 5 out of 10 for the new player or someone that's F2P, and then if you're someone who's further into the game, that's around AR 55, 56, 57, even 58, and you have certain characters built like Bennett or Zhongli or Raiden or C6 Sarah, depending on your RNG, depending on how much you spend on the game, both time and monetarily, then she could be up to like a 7.5, and if you're a whale or a giga whale, then 8.5 if you take her all the way up to Constellation 6. I still stand by those scores. I do think those were pretty fair scores, and I think the community has, over the past few days, seen that she is not that great and has a lot of shortcomings, especially if you are someone that's not too far invested into the game right now. So what are the problems with Yae Miko? Well, first of all, her stats. She has, I believe, the lowest HP pool, and she has by far the lowest defense in the game at 600. Well, at my Yae Miko has 623 defense, but her base stat, she has the lowest defense and I believe the lowest HP pool in the game, which means that if anything even like pokes her, she's probably going to die or lose half her HP, meaning she's very, very squishy. Now, that in itself isn't a problem if you have shield characters or you're good at dodging, but the problem therein lies with she doesn't have invincibility frames, also known as iframes. So when you do her elemental skill like this, she gets locked into an animation that you can't dash out of, and that leaves you vulnerable. And if a strong enemy hits you during that period, you're probably going to lose almost all your HP, or if they're really strong, you're just going to die, which is definitely something both the casual and even the theory crafting side of the community has instantly seen, is that it's not a feels good time when you're locked in her elemental skill animation. Now, she also has this problem with her elemental burst. Once you've done the elemental burst, she will also have this issue of where she's like stunned or just locked into that animation, just standing there. You can't dash, you can't move for around 1.52 seconds, which is a long time to basically get slapped on the face and just die, which is unfortunate. And we have Bwap in the background of the stream here, as you can see behind Yae Miko. But moving away from that, she also has an extremely high burst cost of 90, which is very, very, very high. Now, that's good for Raiden if you're going to pair her up with Raiden, but for anyone that doesn't have Raiden, 90 elemental burst cost is ridiculously high, and Electro is not the easiest element to charge up unless you have Raiden Shogun. And if you don't have Raiden Shogun, it's kind of a slap in the face as well. So something else other than the elemental burst cost is that she also has a 22-second cooldown on the actual elemental burst itself, which again is very, 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 very high. Now you can see here this number, 22 seconds. That is unreasonably high for a character that requires you to be on the field for a long time, dropping your elemental skills. And I personally believe that this is catered towards Constellation 6 Raiden. Now, Constellation 6 Raiden, I'm going to hide my webcam here. While in Musou Ishin state, so her elemental burst, attacks by the Raiden Shogun that are considered part of her elemental burst will decrease all nearby party members, not including the Raiden Shogun herself, elemental burst cooldown by 1 second when they hit opponents. This effect can trigger once every 1 second and can trigger a total of 5 times. So she would take the elemental burst cooldown of Yae Miko from 22 seconds to 17 seconds. Now, 17 seconds is a much better number when you're trying to do quick swap teams and do a rotation through all your elemental skills. So this, for me, is, you know, I feel like it's pretty interesting that the next banner is going to be Raiden Shogun. And, you know, that the constellations on Yae Miko herself are also very good for Raiden Shogun and, of course, herself. So this is another thing. Let me hide the webcam again. Each time Great Secret Art Tenko Kenshin activates a Tenko Thunderbolt, Yae Miko will restore 8 elemental energy for herself. So if you're playing this correctly, you get 24 elemental energy restored on her elemental burst instantly. And I feel like, and I talked about this in the previous video with my first impressions, I hate it when MiHoYo or HoYoverse now does this kind of thing where they have a character which could be perfectly fine and not have these kind of burst issues or energy recharge issues, but they're like, you know what, we're going to create a problem on this character and the constellation is going to be the solution. It's also like the Tartaglia C1 thing. It's just a bunch of stuff that they could have just not had this issue in the first place, and this constellation could have been something else that would have made the character even stronger at C1 or C2. But instead, it's like you don't really have the base character unless you have Constellation 1 or Constellation 2. And a lot of the constellations are like this, and all the way up to Constellation 6, you'll not really be able to unlock Yae Miko's full potential of damage until you have Constellation 6. And if you have Constellation 6, what I can say is that I do think she is a very, very good Constellation 6 character, especially paired up with Raiden Shogun at Constellation 6. They complement each other very, very well, but I'm not going to go for Constellation 6. I don't really like how the constellations are set up on Yae Miko from like a moral perspective, although talking about morals in this game is a bit of a gray area because it's a gacha game and gacha games are gambling. But I'm straying away from the point. Ultimately, I feel like this elemental burst cost should not have been a thing, but it is designed to be catered to work with Raiden Shogun. And yes, you know, Raiden is coming next. Maybe it's because it's relevant to the patch, but at the same time, it's also because, you know, they're trying to entice you into pulling for Raiden constellations and Yae Miko constellations at the same time. So overall, this kind of thing I don't like. I feel like it's a spit in the face or a slap in the face, and yeah, it's a bit annoying. The other thing for Yae Miko that she's lacking is a dedicated artifact set. Now, I'm personally running 2-piece gladiators. You can use Shimenao's or any plus 18% attack bonus set in the future, maybe, who knows. And I've got Thundering Fury here. You can run 4-piece Thunder Soozers on her, although getting 4-piece of that set is extremely difficult. And it's also mind-numbing because that set is not very useful for many other characters unless you're going for very meme-tastic builds. Now, something I've been thinking about is maybe, you know, someone's going to come up with a very quirky 4-piece Thundering Fury build. It is worth noting, if you want to try this, to trigger these cooldown effects, you do have to keep the character on the field, and for the reactions to kick in, the bonus damage, Yae Miko has to be the one triggering the reaction, which is probably going to be a lot easier because you have a lot of Electro raining down when you're playing with Yae Miko. So maybe this is something that could work, a meme-tastic build of this. I'm not 100% sure yet, because she does have a talent which increases with elemental mastery, or it scales with elemental mastery and gives you bonus damage here. However, again, let me hide my webcam. Every point of elemental mastery that Yae Miko possesses will increase Sessho Sakura damage by 0.15%. So this isn't like a huge damage increase, but it's a decent damage increase, and this is only for her elemental skill and not her elemental burst. So if you did want to try a full Thundering Fury Copium build, 4-piece, it might be something doable if you put a lot of EM on. I don't know. I'm not a theory crafter, but this is just a hunch I have that maybe there will be meme-tastic builds in the future. But other than that, she does not have a dedicated artifact set, unlike other characters, maybe like Tartaglia, maybe like, for example, Albedo, Ito, you got Diluc, all of these other characters, Eula, Raiden, they all have dedicated artifact sets that really push them to the next level. Yae Miko does not, like Xiao. They're on 2-piece attack and 2-piece element, which I don't think is a good build. And other than that, guys, I do feel like, you know, one thing that can make her a lot better is simply if this ability was an iframe. If this ability was an iframe, I feel like it wouldn't necessarily solve problems, but it would make her so much more rewarding to play. Because if you time your elemental skill as an opponent is about to attack you and you dodge, I think that's pretty cool. And while you numerically or mathematically wouldn't increase your damage or anything, I feel like the satisfaction, the player satisfaction is the most important thing, would be much higher. Now, something I also noticed, this is completely irrelevant to her damage or whatever, but if you don't press any direction and you tap her elemental skill, you can see here she's not smiling because you've just moved backwards. Now, if you're going in a direction and use her elemental skill, she smiles. So she's kind of like an Eren Yeager Kinney, where if you're not moving forward, she's going to be very unhappy. So I thought that was a little bit of a nice little Easter egg that she wants to be moving forward. Susume, Shinzo Sasageo, Attack on Titan style. I thought that was a nice little, you know, nice little bonus there. But other than that, I do think she is still pretty much a solid 5 out of 10 for your average newish kind of player who's around the AR-50s mark, maybe low AR-55, AR-56, doesn't have too many 5 stars, joined the game a little bit late, and is still developing an understanding of the game. If you don't have a shield character, you're probably going to have a miserable time, especially if it's not Zhongli, because she is very, very squishy. But if you are more further into the game, you have Raiden, you have Zhongli, you have Kazuha, you have Bennett, any of these characters that can increase her damage, or you can rotate with her, you have a C6 Sarah, then, you know, she's definitely a lot more enjoyable. These are characters I personally have, which is why I gave her like a score of 7.5 or towards 8.5 if you are a whale. It's no secret, guys. I am a Giga Whale. I don't have C6 characters for everyone, okay? I always want to emphasize this because people always think I have C6 on everyone. Shenhe, no C6. Yae Miko, no C6. Venti, no C6. Albedo, no C6. Child, no C6. They're all C0. And then Diluc, you know, yes, I do have C6. Ito, I do have C6. But, you know, Eula, no C6. Yeah, not Yanfei. Oh no, what's her name? Yoimiya, no constellations as well. Ayaka, no constellations as well. So I don't pull for constellations on most 5-star characters. We also have Klee as well, no constellations. Kokomi, no constellations. I only pull for constellations for characters I really enjoy playing, or I have like the aesthetic or the character themselves I really, really enjoy. Which is a shame because Yae Miko, I do aesthetically think she looks amazing, and personality-wise, she is definitely in my top 3. I just don't really feel good about pulling one monetarily. It's not been great for me, so I don't want to spend like $1,500 to get these. 2, I really do think it's overkill and completely unnecessary. And 3, this constellation especially is like a, you know, it's just a slap in the face. And it's like, haha, we know you're addicted to the game, we know you're gonna wail anyway, so haha, here you go. I don't personally like that. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Yae Miko. And just to emphasize how important the difference in defense is, I feel like defense is a bit of an underrated stat because most people are dodge to play players, and if you're dodging, then your defense stat doesn't really matter. But if we take a look at Ito, who has 2,363 defense, versus Yae Miko, who has 623 defense, so you have almost a 1,700 defense difference there. This is what the damage difference is going to look like when you're taking hits with, for example, Ito versus taking hits with, for example, Yae Miko. So here we go. We've got Ito here. He takes around 2,182 hits. He's able to take that whole barrage from Tartaglia there. Oh, he's gonna die here though. Yep, he just died because apparently when you exit the domain, you're still playing. Well, Ito's dead, but you saw there 2,132 damage. With Yae Miko, how bad is that going to be? Let's see if she can even take the whole volley or even 2 volleys. So here's Yae Miko. And yeah, she's dead now. 4,598. So double damage, essentially. And yeah, it's quite a lot of damage difference you will take. So Yae Miko is unfortunately very, very, very squishy. And if we revive her, let's revive her real quickly. Let me reapply the shield with Zhongli's burst. And if you do this, the other thing worth mentioning is that you actually want these to be in a triangle. You see these are all connected right now. That's also very important that you keep those connected. If they are too far apart, you will lose damage as well. I completely forgot to mention that. And that actually reminds me, her auto-targeting is abysmal. It's so bad. The way she targets enemies it's terrible. It's actually terrible. Sometimes she will attack like an NPC. Sometimes she will attack a rock. Sometimes she'll prioritize like a fly. And it just doesn't make any sense. And I feel like it's so frustrating. I'm sure you've seen it. I'm pretty sure if you watch anyone's streams of them playing Yae Miko, there will be a moment where she will just randomly attack nothing, or she will attack like the most irrelevant monster on the field, and it's very, very, very frustrating. And also, again, elemental recharge or elemental particles is not very good. It's just, there's definitely a lot of shortcomings to playing Yae Miko, and I feel like if you are a new player, she is not worth your investment. The only downside is, you know, we don't know when Yae Miko's going to come back. So maybe if you don't pull her now, you'll be waiting 6 months, 9 months, a year. She might even be back next month. Who knows? because the downside of if you are a new player and you want to build her, you will not be able to build her unless you have Enkanomiya unlocked and you have this boss here. So if you don't have this boss, you need this material to ascend Yae Miko. If you don't have this area unlocked, you will not even be able to level Yae Miko up for an extremely long time. So do keep all of those things in mind. Overall, it seems like this video is here to completely bash Yae Miko. For me, I still enjoy Yae Miko, and I will always advocate for pull for characters that you enjoy. If you enjoy their playstyle, there's a pretty good chance anyway that if you build them up, they'll be able to beat Spiral Abyss, because Spiral Abyss is not too difficult, and even if you can't 36-star Spiral Abyss, you're not even missing out on a pull. So it's not that big of a deal. For the completionists and the meta players, then of course, if you are one of those meta players, you probably want to stay away from Yae Miko. If you skip her, you're not losing out on anything. But again, I will always advocate this as a game. If you're not having fun, why are you playing? So play to have fun, play for characters you enjoy. And yeah, that's everything I wanted to say. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. And always move forwards with Yae Miko so that she does not look unhappy and you put a smile on her face. Bye-bye.